So hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're doing part 2 of the do's and don'ts of dating. Now this information would be beneficial for both genders, so it's not to say that this video is just for the woman only. It's for the woman to listen and take heed, as well as for some men who recognize some of these behaviors in themselves and also make those changes. So I would have conducted a survey with over 20 men of different age groups. Based on a series of questions, I was looking for a key phrase or a key indicator within the entire thing. And today's key word is communication. That tends to be the root of all the issues, as well as some other things. But that is the main source of all the issues that men tend to have with women. So I would have gathered five topic areas that we'll cover today, and we're starting with the number one: the lack of the ability to communicate in a healthy manner. So what do I mean by this? So, as women, if we're upset, what can happen? So it's either we can become very aggressive in our tone. We could probably verbally abuse our partner by using, obscene language. Some people even become physically violent. You could also, if you're upset, using short answer responses. If they ask you what's wrong, I'm fine. I'm guilty of the I'm fine. And even the silent treatment. And if you're not aware, these things can be very harmful to a relationship, especially if you want to have growth and you want to bring maturity to your relationship. These are habits that you have to leave behind because they are actually hindering the progress of a very harmonious relationship, and you're doing yourself an injustice by doing that. I want to place an emphasis on the silent treatment, especially. Do know that this is actually a form of emotional abuse. It's a form of manipulation to get your partner to do what you want, but it's actually really, really unhealthy for your relationship, and it's a habit that I think most of us need to become aware of, because most of us women do it. I know some men who do it as well. It's not something that I know most of us grew up seeing this and experiencing this, so we believe it's normal, but it's actually not, and it's just recommended that you cut it out. So number 2, lack of accountability. So do you know that accountability is like one of the biggest things that a relationship needs? I know we often focus on communication and trust, but a relationship without accountability is basically like setting yourself up for a failed relationship, because a lot of people don't realize when we encounter issues with our partners, we tend to point the fingers and say, you did this wrong, and I don't like what you're doing this. And sometimes it's things that are unrealistic as well, in terms of the expectations in the relationship. If you are the person who's insecure in the relationship, so a lot of times we put that blame on our partner, but it's only about putting the blame. What about the solution? What is the solution to the issue? Is it realistic? Is it a realistic solution? As well as, are we able to see the role that we play in the issue that we're having? Because, while we are pointing our fingers, we might be doing something wrong as well. So the third point is sense of entitlement. So we always hear, you entitled. I don't like dealing with entitled people, but what exactly is having a sense of entitlement? So it's, if we want to go based on book terms, it's based on a characteristic or a personality characteristic which feels that it has the right to something that it has not earned. A lot of men like to use this word very easily in terms of complaining about women, because I know a lot of dating coaches, they say, no, you are the prize. You are the prize, and let a man earn you, and all these things. And I think that these coaches really bring some value. I know I've listened to some of them, But to take everything that they say, some of the things that they say are a bit unrealistic, especially when dealing with certain individuals. And it also, for me, I personally believe it brings some self-worth to the picture. But some of these women who are believing that they are worthy, and it's not to say that they are unworthy, but they have not done the internal work to make themselves a valuable partner. And that is the problem right there. So a lot of people, they are of the opinion that they are the prize, but the prize at what end? To what expense? You know, and that's why you hear a lot of men saying, what do you bring to the table? And don't ever be a burden to someone. That's my main thing. Don't ever be a burden to someone. Add some value to their life. What what about you? What about you can add value to this person's life? And it doesn't always have to be about money, right? But if it is, let's say you are not a burden in terms of a financial burden to this person, that is a way to start right there in terms of bringing some value to the relationship. Do I enjoy your company? Is it that you add to my happiness that already exists? I look forward to spending time with you while I even personally enjoy my own time, but you just spending that time with you, you add something to it. It's always fun when I'm with you. I feel like I can open up myself and have meaningful conversations with you. It's all a nice package. So it's not always money. And let's not talk about sex. Sex is something that is easily accessible. Great sex, I don't know about that. Great sex isn't easily accessible. I wouldn't say that, but sex is an easy commodity. So here are a few examples just some key things. I'm not going to go into them in depth. So we have unrealistic expectations. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Basically, it's not realistic expectations. In your little fantasy mind, it's like, yeah, this person needs to do this, and that. But looking at, where you lie on the spectrum, how realistic is that? In the day-to-day operations of real life, how realistic is that you're asking of the person? With the type of person that you're choosing to date, how realistic is that of what you're asking of them? Right? So these are some things that we have to consider. So we have self-pity as well. So some people would have experienced some negative things. I think that's all of us. At some point in our life, we experienced something that was unfair. Maybe someone would have cheated on us, or lied to us, or done something that was unfair while we were being our true, honest selves with them. And it sucks. But the main thing to remember that with every negative situation, every negative encounter, there's a lesson to be learned from it. And I'm a big believer in changing the perspective of how you view things, especially pain and negative experiences. You have to change and channel that energy into something positive. And you know what's the strange thing? I'm really happy that, like, everything I've experienced, I'm happy that I've experienced it, because I am the person I am today because of it. I've learned that, I'm not that great at communicating certain things. I may not be that great at reassuring my partners. I've learned a lot throughout the years, and I'm constantly working on myself. I don't think the work ever stops with yourself, but you get better. You attract better partners the more work you do, as well as what you will and will not accept. You set proper boundaries to avoid making, the same mistake over and over and over. So next we have double standards. What's yours is mine, or what mine is mine. I think many of us have heard this. Many of us have probably said this. Many of us have experienced this or saw this. And it's honestly a really selfish way of thinking. You can't tell someone that they can't do something, yet you turn around and do it. That's crap in my eyes. And it's unfair. So just like the point above, it is truly unfair, and I see a lot of women doing it. I see a lot of parents doing it, and honestly, we need to draw the line and be fair in our relationships. If we want to have a better relationship with our parents, our spouse, whoever, our friends, we need to be better human beings overall. Next is no compromise. So, do you know that with effective communication, you need compromise at some point? You're not always going to agree with what the other person says, especially your partner. Even if you all have a million things in common, you all might have one thing that you all disagree on. But are you going to allow that one thing to come between the relationship? You know, sometimes you have to agree to disagree, or even reach a point that, okay, I may not agree fully 100%, but I'm willing to do this and that in order to meet this and that of your needs. And it goes both ways. So yeah. And the last point, using punishments. So you punish other adults for not giving you exactly what you want. An example, say your boyfriend doesn't come to visit as much as you think he should, and you get upset. So instead of communicating that, babe, I'd appreciate if you come visit me more. I really appreciate our quality time. That's learning how to communicate effectively as well. So instead of doing that, you decide he deserves to be punished. So you stop answering his calls or texts, maybe a day or two. And when your boyfriend comes to see you, you greet him with an attitude at the door. So while this might seem like nothing to some people, it's actually a negative reaction driven by the need for entitlement. You feel entitled to his attention and love, while in truth you are both equal and deserve the same amount of respect. Non-toxic actions are when you give your boyfriend the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he doesn't come because he could be too busy to come visit. Now, I'm not saying to not, if you have a partner who used to do A and B and they stop doing it, I think consistency plays a big role in relationships, as well as the first key point that we need, communication. If you can't visit, give your partner the reason why. Talk to them about why you can't visit. But don't just leave things or make plans and then you're fickle about the plans, you don't show up. Come on, you're asking yourself for issues there. And I'm saying this because I know for me, I don't get mad often. I think expectations can lead to a lot of disappointment, so I try to just live in the present. If we make plans and life happens and something comes up, I just want that to be communicated with me personally. I won't get upset. I'll be really understanding. Now, if it becomes a pattern that I see you constantly doing this, in my mind, it's like, okay, there's something you're not telling me, and it's like, this would lead to problems down the road, of course. But you live and you learn. So we've reached number 4. Emotional baggage. So trauma. So it's defined, I have the definition here. So emotional or psychological baggage is a collective term for any unresolved emotional turmoil caused by childhood trauma, abuse, or any negative experience from the past. Right. So our emotional baggage can teach us many things, from helping us to manage expectations, discovering what we want in life and relationships, and teaching us how to cope with pain and rejection. So this goes back to what I was talking about earlier with the self-pity and changing the perspective of how you view things. We all experience negative things. I don't think if someone has not experienced it, good for them, but how much of the percentage is that? I think majority of us have felt or experienced uncomfortable things, hurtful things, pain, rejection. I think we all have experienced it. I don't think it's nothing abnormal. It's quite common and it happens. But pain is not meant to break you down. Pain serves as a lesson. Pain serves as a lesson. I always tell folks, if God takes something away from you, if God does not allow something to happen and manifest in your desired way, right? It doesn't have the desired outcome that you want. This is God shielding you from something that is not either in alignment with you, it's not on your path, and He has something better in store for you. If a door closes, another will open. Best believe. Best believe. So, a lot of the problems, a lot of persons, when they have emotional baggage, they allow it to take control of their lives. So they have 6 signs that you're allowing emotional baggage to influence your life decisions. So I saw this, I can't remember the website, I can't remember, but I saw this and I was like, I think a lot of people don't realize that they are carrying around emotional baggage. And I think that's why therapy is so good. Sometimes when you're accustomed to dysfunction, you believe it's normal. And I would have discussed this in my video where I discussed dysfunction and generational traumas and all these things. But I think when you're so accustomed to a particular environment, you believe it is the routine. And it's normal and nothing's wrong with you and it's everybody else. So let's discuss the 6 signs. So the first one is emotional distance. A strong emotional bond is an essential pillar of a healthy relationship. However, unresolved emotional baggage can stop you from experiencing real intimacy with someone. You can build up walls and defense mechanisms that might make it impossible to nurture deep and long-lasting relationships with anyone. If you're being told you're too closed off, if you're hard to read, it's a clear sign you have some emotional baggage to let go of. I think I can see persons who when I think about how they describe this, I think at some point in my life I have been closed off to relationships. I think some people might even say that I am closed off because I don't really engage in too much small talk, but I know why. For me, I am what do you call it? I'm trying to remember.
Later, in the void.
Jeez, boy. I'll put it up on the screen. I'll put it up somewhere here. Basically, it's when you are attracted to intelligence. Yeah. Be that. But for me, that's my thing there. I really like engaging in conversations. Next, commitment issues. Do you have a hard time committing yourself to someone? Some people might even say that I am this person as well. Maybe I have emotional baggage that I don't realize. Ooh, when it comes to relationships, commitment issues might be caused by attachment insecurity, which is an attachment style centered in fear. If this is the case, it can manifest in three ways. So fearful avoidance, what it means is wanting a relationship but having a constant fear that you might get hurt. I think that's majority of people. I think this is exactly what I'm working on in myself, if I have to be honest. I think I'm getting better. I'm learning to just really start wanting to have control and knowing about every step of the way. And it gets easier. It's tough at first because this is what you're accustomed to and you're unlearning certain behaviors. But I definitely relate to the fearful avoidance. The next one is dismissive avoidant, not wanting to depend on anyone or share true intimacy. Miss Independent.
I don't need no man. I don't need no man. Don't let no man cause I love you. You don't need no man.
Woo! I know a lot of those. The angry black woman. Yeah. Yeah. Dismissive avoidance. Anxious, preoccupied. Constant anxiety about being abandoned and having a low sense of worth. So, in case you don't understand, it's in your thoughts, you constantly feel like this person is going to hurt you. So, it's very similar to the fearful avoidance, but it is constantly on your mind. Oh, you're cheating, you're going to leave me for someone else. And the person is really, really insecure. I think when male friends tell me their problems, even some of those really unhealthy, toxic relationships on TV, you tend to see this anxious, preoccupied person that, is just really toxic, really controlling because of that fear. Some ice cream could. We're doing some ice cream now, yes? Feeling to run outside, but those ice cream people, they don't want money. Look how fast you drive by. I'm not interested in anybody. I have to run outside my house, run down the van or whatever. Ice cream man. Chocolate! I'm not going through that. I'm not going through that. I'm not going through that at all. Next, we have serial dating. A serial dater is someone who treats relationships like monkey bars, transferring from one relationship to the next with very little time in between. I am guilty. I am guilty of this. Not now, but I think previously, yes. Yeah. I think I didn't allow myself to heal. In my mind, I'm fine because of how detached my personality is. Moving on is easy. I think a big thing for me now is to take a step back and consider what I want. I think a lot of the times we use relationships to make us forget about whatever issues that we have, and we don't really take a step back to look at ourselves and reevaluate. What do you want going forward? Let's be very intentional about what we want, and I think it's something that I have done in my past, and the older I get, I think I am more aware of my personal needs, and I'm not that willing to jump into a relationship that quickly. So they are never single and can't hold long-term relationships. Emotional baggage can sometimes lead to fear of being alone. Past romantic rejection or childhood trauma can lead people to avoid facing their problems. Exactly what I just said. Instead, they distract themselves by serial dating and never truly committing to any relationship that requires opening their wounds. Next is paranoia. One of the worst signs of deep emotional baggage is having paranoia that every relationship would lead to pain or being left alone. So just like what we mentioned earlier with the anxious, preoccupied, this is where you fall in here. Right? Everybody has fears of being left by someone they love. It's normal to feel vulnerable when you give your heart to someone. However, emotional baggage can lead you to believe that no one is trustworthy enough to truly love you. As a result, you might self-sabotage your own relationships. You might even drive away any potential of a meaningful relationship before it even begins. I've experienced this, and it is difficult to be madly in love with someone and they just think the worst of you in terms of you'll be unfaithful to them, you'll leave them one day, and I think it hurts the person on the opposite end of the spectrum because they just feel hopeless and helpless at some point of the relationship, because it's like no matter what you do, this person will never believe that you want the best for them, that you want the best for the relationship. They just have this constant paranoia that you will do something at some point to hurt them. And it's honestly frustrating. I think we have 3 more. Projection. Most of us carry our own insecurities to any new relationship. That's part of being human. However, emotional baggage can sometimes make us project our own assumptions to our partners. An example is if you meet someone and they're really good looking, but they're into you, but you're insecure about how you look and you feel like you're not good enough. You're secretly feeling that inside. It's like, how could this person even like me like that? And they're so handsome. Why me? And you project that they're a player. You're gonna waste my time, you're gonna break my heart. You know? So, however, emotional baggage can sometimes make us project our own assumptions of our partners. According to therapist and relationship coach Monica Hoyt, projection is a tendency to disown the qualities we don't like about ourselves and see them in others. That's projection. In this case, projection is perhaps the most damaging behavior that leads to toxic and unhealthy relationship dynamics. When you project your insecurities to your partner, you create blame games, distrust, and a serious miscommunication that can prevent you from ever developing a happy relationship. And it is straight facts. Straight facts, because you assume the worst from your partner. That's basically what it is. You assume the worst. Next is comparison. Comparing past relationships to a new one could be understandable. It makes sense. Someone else is filling the role of your ex, so a little comparison is natural. However, you might be carrying emotional baggage from previous relationships if you're constantly comparing your new partner to your ex. Being constantly compared to an ex can create a lot of unnecessary stress and anxiety. People want to be accepted and loved as is in the relationship, and not always feeling like they have to measure up to another person from the past. I think that's fair. I don't think anybody likes being compared. I think internally, if you meet someone and maybe you like particular traits that your ex had, and you meet someone and they just don't measure up to those certain traits, my whole thing is you need to realize that that's not your ex. That's your love language. It's not your ex, no. It's your love language. And your ex understood your love language naturally, baby. That's how they enjoyed showing love for their partners. So it was just compatible from a jump. So it's not a competition. It's more about you understanding yourself. These are the traits from my ex that I loved. So for me, I've realized that I thought I wasn't romantic, but I've realized that I am hella romantic. Not me. Not me in particular. But I don't mind doing romantic things. I don't mind. But it's not the number one way of how I show affection. But I love romance. I love to be romance. I love to be taken on dates. And it doesn't have to be anything fancy or whatever. I like intimate settings. And it's something I had to learn. I learned that those are my needs. I also learned that quality time is something that I really appreciate. I appreciate when someone makes time out of their busy schedule to spend that time with me. I really appreciate it. And then physical touch. So it's not about comparing, well, Joe did this for me and you're not doing this. You like gifts. Gifts could be part of your love language. It's not about Joe. It's about you, and it's about understanding yourself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll come back to that when we reach our last point. And lastly, in terms of the 6 signs, dysfunctional family. You come from a dysfunctional family. Wouldn't anyone want a perfect childhood? This means that a lot of us walk around in life carrying deep emotional wounds from our traumatic childhoods. Of course, we all have different experiences, and some might have it even worse than others. So if you come from a dysfunctional or abusive home, you might be dealing with psychological issues from your childhood. This can affect the way you see and handle romantic relationships, which can cause codependency, insecurity, abandonment and trust issues, emotional unavailability, and commitment issues. So I like how that last point kind of just wrapped up everything we just discussed in a nice bow, basically. Right? Because every point I just mentioned, we spoke about it earlier, actually. Our 5th point is the lack of self-awareness. We are at the fifth and final point here, which is going to take us home and solidify this entire video. So according to Gary Van Warmerdam, from the pathway to happiness, and y'all, I would definitely recommend that you all check out his website. I left the link in the description below. I think I will leave all the links to all the articles that I got this information from. But his page, okay. Hey. All right. Okay, let's focus. Right. So a lot of the information that he has on his website is really, really helpful. It's really, really insightful. I agreed with 100% with every single thing that he said. So I took bits and pieces from his article just to share with you guys today. So he defines self-awareness as the clear perception of oneself, including thoughts in the mind, emotions, physiology, and behaviors. The critical term is clear perception. Before we move on, I think, with self-awareness, I've had to develop my self-awareness. Children are self-aware. You are born self-aware. It's not to say that they have none, but some people, they literally have zero self-awareness. They cannot see themselves other than the point of view that's in their head. Honestly, a lot of women that I know and a lot of men that I know are not self-aware, and it's like you try to tell them certain things, but they can't see beyond themselves. And honestly, I just said, okay, teach your own. You continue doing you, boo. It's not working out, but whatever. So self-awareness also means being present with your emotions in a conscious, aware state. You can have lots of emotions and can refrain from acting out or voicing them. Bursting out in a reaction of anger or frustration and then afterwards realizing you got carried away is lacking self-awareness. So just like we mentioned at the beginning, when you get frustrated when you're communicating with your partner, when you get frustrated and you just burst out and you just say whatever, you throw whatever, let's say they were vulnerable with you and they told you their personal business, you just throw that back in the face.
I want your father leave. Oh, I want your mother used to beat you with your big head self.
Oh Lord. But come on. It's unnecessary. And when you do things like this, you kind of break down the trust between you and your partner. It's like, I won't be comfortable with sharing anything with you again because this might be used against me. So, you have to learn to be the master of your own emotions. You might have the urge to say something, but that doesn't mean that you just burst out and say it, because you have to consider, how will this make my partner feel? How would this affect our relationship? If you don't give a rat's booty about the relationship, well, you can say whatever you want because you don't care. You don't care who it hurts, who it impacts. You don't care if you all break up. You don't care. And there's no possibility that you want to repair this relationship. Once you've had that conversation with your mind, you can go ahead and say whatever you want. But if it is you are looking for a serious relationship and you value your partner, this is something you have to become aware of, and you have to be able to grasp and control your emotions. So the self-judgment, guilt, and feeling bad for overreacting is also a lapse of self-awareness. It means that your mind runs thoughts out of control and takes you for an emotional ride. You might know it is happening, which is good on one level, but being able to change perspective and not believe those thoughts is a much greater awareness and consciousness. Many of us assume that we are self-aware. However, many times it's our ego's intellect or projected image of ourselves. And that is straight facts. If you ask anybody, do you think you're self-aware? The immediate response is going to be, yes, I am self-aware. I am self-aware, but I also know that I still have many things to learn. I can only understand a person's perspective by so much. I do have my limits in which I can understand their perspective. However, I'm always open to understanding newer perspectives, although they may differ from mine. We may have a difference in opinion, but I'm willing to listen to your perspective. Maybe I was blindsided in the way I'm viewing things, and this happens a lot. So, who are you? Or who do you pretend to be around others? And who are you when you are alone with yourself? Do these feel like different people? The amount of disparity is a measure of how the different parts of your personality are in conflict. And in brackets, they said this is normal, by the way, in the beginning of the self awareness week. I know for me, there was this big, I think throughout my life, there was this big disconnect about who I am in social settings, who I am to my family, and who I am in my private life. And I always felt misjudged. I always felt like no one understood me until I realized that, well, you aren't showing up as your authentic self. So you can't get mad at people for not understanding who you are. You're showing up as this person and not who you are, who you really are. And then the same goes with my family. I'm a really, really private person. And I've had to learn to, explain certain things, have patience as well. And yeah, this has been something really big for me. And I'm pretty sure many of us would feel the same way. So, how to develop self awareness? So, he has some points here. Practice shifting your perspective to the observer. And this is what I was talking about in terms of, yes, you are able to see things a certain way, but put yourself in the other person's shoes. If you were in their shoes and you were dealing with someone like yourself, how would you react? Yeah? How would you feel? The shoe is on the other end. How would you feel? How would you want to be treated? So, sometimes this is measured by being accurate about how others would describe us. This is the ability to look at ourselves from their perspective. To do this, we also have to step outside the narrative voices in our head and ask others for constructive feedback. So, the next point is to commit some time to reading up on self-awareness and understanding how to develop it within yourself. He also had meditation practices, and I think he offers like some classes. Develop self-reflection skills. You will spend time exploring your emotions, beliefs, behaviors, ego, and thoughts, both ones you like and the ones you don't like. Many people advise journaling. He says that he thinks it can be helpful, but it depends on how you journal. He doesn't recommend regular journaling as it may leave you trapped in normal patterns of thoughts and in your intellect. I think journaling is really good. I journal, but it's something I do from time to time in times where I feel either emotional stress. Sometimes it's good to go back at your old entries and reflect on how you feel about it now, and you understand your emotional state at the time compared to now. It's really, really good. It's really, really helpful. Get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable emotions. This is true. The process is slightly uncomfortable at times. This is typical of changing beliefs and dissolving ego behaviors. When you become present with the beliefs driving your fears and what the voice of your inner critic is doing in your head and where it came from, you will understand more clearly what he means. Because of this uncomfortable component, most people don't look that deeply unless their life, relationships, career, or health has become painful in some way. The uncomfortable part of the process is a phase where once changes are integrated, it can lead to inner peace. Develop a skillful control of your attention. So this he says you need to practice. You can maintain a hold of your attention in conversation while emotions are being stirred up and your mind is firing off rapid thoughts. That's when you need dominion over your attention to calm your system. So some people have like that count. They count to 1, 2, 3. For me, I like to take a step away. Give me some time to cool down because I don't want to say something I'll regret. A self-aware person will at least consider that there may be a good reason why expectations were not met. They will put their attention on a resource problem instead of assuming people are not taking them seriously. This is a much more useful and efficient use of energy over getting frustrated, running negative thoughts in your mind, and venting those emotions to others. Understanding, observing, and being able to change those seemingly small things like expectations is an indication of self-awareness. Awareness not only makes you a much more efficient person at getting things done, It also makes you a better person to work with and be emotionally happier. Moral of the story, self-awareness is key. Self-awareness is the first step to becoming a better person, a better individual, understanding one's own emotions, mastering one's own emotions, being able to see the perspective of others, and not being so angry. I think we as women, we have such big egos and no one discusses it. Us women, our egos are huge.
It's too big, it's too wide.
Because I think society kind of panders to women and everything is sugar coated and they give us the leeway. And yes, we have our own struggles. I'm not going to deny that. But when it comes to relationships and the dynamic, men are really painted as the bad guys. Men are painted as the bad guys. And then there are men who do bad things. But they do bad things for a reason. They also have their traumas, their issues, they have their things that they have to work on too. And men are human. We have this way that we actually dehumanize men, and I don't understand it. We think that men just want sex and to take our money and to use us. And this goes back to one of the points earlier with the paranoia. You just feel like this person's out to get you. They can't do nothing good because you never experienced that, and it's like you're doing yourself an injustice. Rather than focusing on the negative experience you've seen and experienced yourself, let's focus on what you want. Learning to manifest what you want for yourself, because manifestation is a real thing. Positive thoughts create positive outcomes. Negative thoughts create negative outcomes. So you choose the type of life you want for yourself. But you have to be able, you as a person, have to be able to also display that. So you can't want a healthy relationship and you're an unhealthy individual. It doesn't make sense. You're not going to attract a healthy partner. And even if you do attract a healthy partner, you are going to self-sabotage. You are going to. So, ladies, make the choice. Men, I hope you all also got some useful information from this. But, we as a society, I think the younger generations, many of us are single, are choosing to be single. Other men are saying what you're bringing to the table. A lot of women are saying, I'm the prize and whatever. But do we really know ourselves? Do we, outside of materialistic things, do we know what value we bring to the relationship? So, guys, we've come to the end of the video. I am sweating. Baby, calm down. You don't have to dance for it. Let's know. My mind and me. Bye.